In today's discussion, we dive into an insightful and timely conversation featuring Professor Busani Ngcaweni, a man who has walked the halls of power at the very top of South Africa's government. For many years, he worked inside the Presidency, serving as policy and research head, as well as chief of staff. He also went on to lead the National School of Government, before becoming director for the Centre for Public Policy and African Studies at the University of Johannesburg. This is a man who has not only studied governance and leadership but has lived it from the inside. Today, we reflect on his perspectives, his warnings, and his lessons for South Africa, especially at a moment when the country faces one of the most significant political experiments since 1994, the Government of National Unity. Professor Ngcaweni has a unique vantage point. He has worked under different presidents and deputy presidents, and his career has placed him in close proximity to how decisions are made at the highest levels of power. His reflections are not simply academic, they come from lived experience inside the corridors where politics meets bureaucracy, where ideology collides with practical governance, and where national promises are tested by realities on the ground. His insights are therefore important as South Africa takes a new path with GNU, and as leaders like Cyril Ramaphosa, Paul Mashatile, Senzo Mchunu, and others try to navigate a coalition-style government that includes political rivals forced to work together for the sake of national stability. To understand the weight of his warnings and the meaning of his reflections, it is useful to step back and consider the historical context. South Africa's democracy has always been a story of compromise. In 1994, the country did not begin with a winner-takes-all government, but rather a government of national unity that included the ANC, the National Party, and the Inkatha Freedom Party. That GNU was a way to bring together groups with deep mistrust and hostility into one cabinet, to prevent the young democracy from sliding into conflict. It was not easy. The National Party eventually walked out of that arrangement, and the IFP was constantly at odds with the ANC, but that period laid the foundation for stability and allowed institutions to survive in a fragile moment. Fast forward to 2024, and history has come full circle. For the first time since democracy began, the ANC has fallen below 50% in national elections. It can no longer govern alone. The result is another government of national unity, this time not born out of a transition from apartheid, but from a transition away from one-party dominance. This GNU includes not just old rivals like the DA, but also smaller players, independents, and a wide variety of voices that must somehow find common ground. On paper, it looks like a model of inclusivity, but in practice, it raises huge questions about coherence, direction, and accountability. This is where Busani Ngcaweni's experience becomes so valuable. Having served multiple presidents, he understands the tension between politics and bureaucracy. Politics is about winning battles, managing factions, and keeping supporters happy. Bureaucracy, on the other hand, is about implementing programs, delivering services, and keeping the machinery of government running. Too often, these two sides clash, and South Africa has suffered when politics overwhelms bureaucracy. Policies are announced with great fanfare, but delivery lags behind. Money is allocated, but corruption or inefficiency swallows it. Leaders make promises, but the state does not follow through. Professor Ngcaweni reflects on these challenges with honesty. He has seen presidents and deputy presidents up close, each with their own style and their own weaknesses. From Thabo Mbeki's technocratic approach to Jacob Zuma's populist politics, and now to Cyril Ramaphosa's consensus-driven leadership, the lessons are clear. A president can set the tone, but unless the system below them functions, nothing changes for ordinary citizens. And unless leaders have the courage to put the nation before their factions, the bureaucracy becomes a battleground rather than a service engine. One of Ngcaweni's key warnings for the current GNU is about coherence. How can leaders from the ANC, the DA, and smaller parties agree on fundamental issues like land reform, the economy, and corruption? These are not small disagreements, they go to the heart of South Africa's future. The DA, for example, has always resisted aggressive land expropriation, while the ANC has been under pressure to deliver on land justice for decades. The GNU now forces them into the same cabinet, where they must try to agree on policy. If they cannot, the government risks paralysis, with endless debates but little action. Another major concern is corruption. South Africans are tired of hearing promises about fighting corruption while scandals continue to emerge. From state capture to local government failures, corruption has crippled trust in the system. The GNU promises to restore credibility, but Ngcaweni's warning is that unless there is genuine political will, corruption networks will survive. Bureaucrats and politicians who benefit from corruption are deeply entrenched. Breaking that system requires courage, consistency, and a willingness to lose friends and allies along the way. The economy is another battlefield. South Africa's economy has struggled with low growth, high unemployment, and rising debt. The GNU cannot afford endless squabbles over ideology. It needs a clear plan to stimulate investment, create jobs, and provide relief to millions of people who live in poverty. Ngcaweni warns that if the GNU focuses too much on internal negotiations and power-sharing deals, it will neglect the urgent economic challenges that face ordinary citizens. In the end, people judge governments not by the number of parties in cabinet, but by whether their lives improve. Ngcaweni also reflects on the role of key figures such as Senzo Mchunu and other leaders tasked with holding the GNU together. He points out that leadership is not just about position, but about moral authority and the ability to rise above factionalism. If GNU leaders see themselves as representing their parties first, and the nation second, then the project will fail. But if they commit to a higher vision of unity, the GNU could be an opportunity to rebuild South Africa's democracy, to strengthen institutions, and to show that cooperation is possible even in a divided society. As Professor Busani Ngcaweni reminds us, working in the highest office is not about glory, but about responsibility. The challenges are immense, but the stakes are too high to fail. South Africa stands once again at a crossroads. The decisions taken today, the compromises made, and the values upheld will shape the future for generations to come. That brings us to the end of this episode. What do you think about the government of national unity? Do you believe it can succeed, or do you think it is too divided to last? How should leaders like Ramaphosa, Mashatile, and Senzo Mchunu approach the challenges of corruption, land reform, and the economy? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video, share it with others who care about South Africa's future, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. Your engagement helps us keep bringing you thoughtful discussions and perspectives that matter.